You know that I love you, there's no one above you. I said it the last time, this is the last time. Don't make me over, cause I can be faithful. Baby, you're my number one. You're my number one. This is the chorus line from a song performed by John Legend entitled Number One off of his album Get Lifted. It's a very interesting song, and upon first listen, one might get the impression that what he communicates is his intention to straighten up and do right by his girl. She is number one, is the message that he tries to convey. Upon close examination of the words, it is clear that this is not the first time that he's had to have this conversation with his girl. As I thought about it, this idea of being number one is the inspiration for this edition of Practical Assertion entitled, Why Being Number One is Not Always Best. Now I know that on the surface, being number one is normally the goal in most situations. Every team that I know strives for the title of number one. In every graduating class, several students long for the title valedictorian, that is, number one. In every business segment, corporations and companies seek to be number one. In the soft drink industry, that everlasting battle between Coca-Cola and Pepsi rages on. In the department store arena, Walmart and Target seem to compete for the title. In the automotive sector, there are so many vying for the number one spot that some have even recently altered tests to reach the top spot. In normal fashion, with my weekly blog, I'd like to focus on relationships once again, if it's not already obvious, and discuss the fallacy of this way of thinking. In the aforementioned song, John Legend goes to great lengths to convince his lady that she is number one. So ladies, let's take a moment to review the lyrics of the chorus and see if we can gain some insight that supports my title, Being Number One is Not Always Best. First of all, he states that you know that I love you. Well, it goes without saying, excuse the pun, that just saying I love you means very little, especially when your actions say otherwise. And by the way, if I have to keep telling you with words that I love you, there is something missing in our relationship. Don't get me wrong, I tell my beautiful wife that I love her several times a day, every day, so I'm not suggesting that those three words should not be spoken. But what I am saying is that without actions, mere words are like feathers. Some of you are wondering, what the heck? I mean, so let me enlighten you there. If I invite you to my house for dinner and tell you that we are serving chicken, and when you come and sit at my table, I serve you a plate of chicken feathers, how would you feel? Needless to say, even if I pile the feathers 2 feet high on your plate, you will still leave empty. Now do you get it? What is love? What does love look like? What does it mean? The answer to these questions will be different depending on whom you ask. Suffice it to say, before this edition of Practical Assertion is done, you will see what John's definition is. So hold that thought as we look at the second line of the chorus that says, there's no one above you. Again, on the surface, this sounds like an enviable position. Like all of the corporations mentioned earlier, everybody wants that number one spot. But in love and relationships, this may not be enough. So hold that thought as we look at the next line, which says, I said it the last time. What's wrong with her that he has to tell her once again that there is no one above her and that he loves her, right? She must be dense or something that he has to tell her again and again, huh? Now you and I both know that the problem is not with her, but with him. You've probably heard it said that the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. Well, I've got to tell you that truer words are rarely spoken. You see, the reason that he has to go to such lengths to convince her that he loves her is because, to put it mildly, she ain't feeling the love. And that part about there's no one above her, well, that ain't flying either because, and here's the whole point of this edition, it really matters not that there is no one above her when there are so many below her. Ladies, are you feeling me? Don't miss my point. To be number one when there are several more is not the best position to be in as it relates to relationships. Why are so many relationships satisfied with being number one when there are so many others sharing their mate? Even when you think about the corporations and companies mentioned earlier, what is implied is that there are several players in the game. Ladies, stop being played. Being number one is not always best. By the way, as a point of clarification, men are not the only players out there. Well, tell me what you think. Did I get it right? Am I on your street? Am I therefore become your enemy because I tell you the truth? For those of you in those jacked up relationships being okay with the number one position, how do those feathers taste? I want to hear from you. Let me know what you think. Share with me when you realize the fact that being number one wasn't all that it's cracked up to be. I'll see you next week for another edition of Practical Assertion, and I can't wait to hear from you because I'm sure I will. Take care and tell everybody you know. Share this video with everyone you know as well. Goodbye.